All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Danny, and this is the Common Rule Podcast. How have you been? Man, it has been a minute, and I apologize about that, but, well, we'll get into that here in a second as far as doing a little recap. This is a little solo thing happening today. I don't have a guest, and we'll talk about that in a second, too. And, well, first of all, I hope this finds you in good health. I hope you're doing okay. I hope you and your loved ones are nice and healthy and clean. And, man, I wouldn't wish any of this on anyone. It's fucking crazy out there, as everyone keeps saying. These are strange times for sure. I've never gone through anything like this. Maybe someone from the older generation has gone through a lockdown. I don't know. As of today, this is technically the 31st of March in the year of our Lord 2020. And technically, I think on the 30th, yesterday, the great governor of Arizona passed the ordinance to where you can stay in your fucking house unless you got some sort of something important to do. You're in there. Now, just to give you a recap on this here, I've been bugging you for a while here on this. Go back a few episodes before I started to speak to anyone or anything like that, or having interviews. I was talking about how, I got major foot surgery last August. And for the most part, I've been living this hermit lifestyle for a while now. I've been working from home. I haven't really gone out and done anything. It's been that kind of life for me for the past few months. And it's been crazy. I seriously just started walking about 4 or 5 weeks ago. With the fucking, I don't know, I call it a waffle shoe. It's one of these shoes that you can wrap around your foot that's already bandaged so that you can walk around in. Before that, I was on an e-scooter, so I wasn't really going out and doing anything anyway. I definitely wasn't going to bars or anything like that for fear of someone stepping into me or just, knocking me over or something like that. But, it's, although funny enough is when I got a buddy coming in before the whole thing was shutting down, and seriously, like the first week I started walking, buddy comes in from out of town and wants to go to a strip club. So the first time I go out and drink or something like that, it's, at my friendly local neighborhood strip club. It was a good time, but yeah, it was surreal how that was, probably the first place that I went out. But ever since then, I've been more or less on lockdown. I have been, I'm just giving you a recap. I don't want to fucking bore you and give you a sad story here, because it isn't sad, especially given the situation of what was going on. I don't want you guys to think that, but you know what? You guys ain't got shit to do right now, so, just listen. My living situation's changed. I kind of alluded to that in the other ones. And I've been more or less homeless for a while. I don't have a place of my own to stay just yet. The plans on the place where I was going to be staying at kind of fell through for a second. And I've been more or less couch surfing and haven't had a real permanent place to watch TV or anything like that, or get caught up on all my wonderful shows. Or let alone podcast. So finally, I'm situated with my friend Des here. She has allowed me to crash at her place, and lucky me in a sense to where she decided to go before all this lockdown and traveling got out of control. She decided to go back and spend some time with her family in the Midwest. So I am kicking it here on my own. Living this otaku lifestyle. Kudos if you know what the fuck that's from, but whatever. And so I've finally been able to set up a microphone and 2 turntables and a computer and be able to talk and do some podcasting here. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it here and appreciate your patience and, for all 10 of you out there listening and making it a habit of listening to this fucking thing. I really appreciate it. But anyway, I'm going to ramble on here for a bit as far as a couple of things, a couple of ideas, a couple of things that have hit me as far as, now that we have all this time to think and to, all this fucking free time to, quote unquote, stay creative or maybe catch us on some projects that we've been putting on by the wayside. But hey, first thing I want to talk about though is, so one of the things that I've caught up on these past couple of weeks, as a matter of fact, last week, is the Game of Thrones finale. Yeah, god damn it. And despite some feedback that I got from let's just say very respectable sources, I decided, fuck it, I'm going to watch it. If some of you don't watch the Game of Thrones, don't worry about it. Well, maybe you should start watching the first season and then see what you have from there. It's a good show. It really is. I started towards the last couple seasons, I was just more or less watching them out of habit. It definitely wasn't good as the first few seasons, in my opinion. I just didn't dig a lot of the things that were happening, the direction it was going. I don't know. I'm also the guy who hasn't read the books. So this is all from just watching the show, FYI. Some of you motherfuckers are out there all about, you should read the books, this, that, and the other. I don't know. Maybe I'll read the last 2 volumes just to see how this thing was supposed to end. But this is one of the things, though, that I wanted to talk about here as far as, you know what? First of all, let me just finish kind of shitting on the Game of Thrones here for a little bit. Now, the Game of Thrones wasn't that bad, the finale. But my whole thing is this. If that's what you were going to throw at me, if that's what you were coming at me with, you could have fucking done it in 3 or 4 episodes. I didn't need, a lot of people say, oh, it was short, it was only, no, fuck that, it was too long. If that's the way that you were going to end it, you could have done it in 2 episodes, 3 episodes. I didn't need this whole fucking thing. I didn't need an episode on fucking the dragon fucking destroying a city. I didn't need a whole fucking, I just didn't need a lot of that bullshit that was there that was just filler stuff. I didn't need a fucking hour marathon as to what the Starks were going to do at the end of the fucking thing. I don't give a shit. You already fucked it up. Just give it to me straight, and that was it. Again, everyone's talking about how long it was because it was, or more or less how short it was, but I thought it was too long. Again, if you were going to do that to me, you could have done it in half as many episodes, I'm telling you. And then I think I would have been okay with that. I really would have. I personally would have been okay with that. Other than, you know what, I don't know what the fuck was going on. I was sick and tired of that fucking dragon. I was sick and tired of fucking fights and shit that took more than 1 episode to finish. That's what irked me more than anything else. I was even prepared for that type of ending. I don't want to give away too much because I don't know. I don't know why. I do wish for you to see it, but you don't have to. This is what I'm saying. Why did I watch it then? Despite feedback from very respectable sources, closure. That's it, man. I needed to see the end. And it's possible that they're probably going to make some sort of spin-offs and a bunch of other shit too. I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I'm the guy that will watch a shitty movie till the end. Now, if I'm in a theater, I'll watch it all the way through. Now, I'm not a proponent of watching it at all one sit down. Like, again, if I'm at a theater, I'm going to get my money's worth and I'm going to fucking watch the whole thing. But if I'm watching a shitty movie like on Netflix or Amazon or something like that, it might take me a week to finish the movie. But I'll watch it. I'll watch it in parts. I'll watch it a half hour at a time. But I will finish the movie. I just believe in finishing shitty movies. I don't know what it is. I can't leave a movie unwatched. I can't leave a series apparently unwatched. Now there's a couple of series where I know that going into like a certain series within an episode or two, whether or not I'm going to finish it or watch the next season. I can't remember at the top of my head, but there are a couple of shows that I've seen where I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I don't have to watch the end of that. One season is good enough. And then there are other seasons, of course, or other shows that I just I have to watch. And this brings me to as far as a True Detective. Now, the second detective series, the season in it, I didn't think it was that bad either. Don't get me wrong. Well, as it measures up to the first one was just epic. It was a great, great story told in so many parts, and I love that show. I think that if they would have started with the second season first, it might have been a different story. But yeah, compared to the first season, the second season wasn't that good. But I now had the time to watch season 3, and I thought it was good. I loved it. I think we're back on track. It's going to be good. A lot of great acting. Who would have thought? And I mean this sincerely, and I'm not trying to shit on Steven Dorff there, but I didn't think he was that good an actor. And I mean, I haven't seen anything of his that would make me go, God damn, that guy got talent. But in this show, maybe it was his part, maybe it was finally something that was written for him. I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved him in Blade, but I mean, I loved everything about Blade. So that's, nothing to nothing to gauge his acting on. But in this one, as good as goddamn, the guy from Luke Cage, Ali, I can't remember his full name, Ali Marshala, I believe. I should look it up, but I'm fucking lazy. As good as that cat was, the series really is made by Steven Dorff's character. I'll look it up because I don't even know if I'm saying Steven Dorff's name correctly. But that was a great episode. I liked it. It allowed me to catch up and get some closure on it for a while because, again, I'm behind on these shows. You guys have probably already saw those shows when they first came out. I've been more or less not on the HBO tip for a bit, and even then, my living situation hasn't allowed me to set up a TV, let alone a podcasting scenario here. So I'm glad that my friend Dez has allowed me to catch up on these shows and go at it from there. And also, just as a side note, I watched that documentary Mugmillions. It's pretty decent. I like it. It's got nice twists and turns on that. You should watch that one. But you know what? While we're on documentaries, again, I told you I was going to ramble for a little bit. You ain't got shit to do. Just sit back and relax, man. The documentary that I was slightly disappointed in, and this is going to sound bad because the story is really good, is the trials of Gabriel Fernandez. I think that's the... man, I'm so sorry. I fucking almost sudden I'm having brain farts here. But that is a documentary of the little boy from Los Angeles County that... oh man, it really is just a tragic story. Yeah, the trials of Gabriel Fernandez. And it is a sad story. It's not sad. It's fucking tragic about how the system basically did this little boy wrong. My problem with it is the way that the documentary was made. Again, there's too much bullshit in that documentary to where the director or the producers or whoever the makers are of that documentary, whoever I want to pin this blame on, were more concerned on the production of it instead of sticking to the story and not making some sort of bullshit filler material. It's a documentary that had too much. It could have been shorter. It could have been maybe 2 episodes shorter if they just wouldn't have gone into some bullshit, and which is tragic because the story deserved more attention and more focus on it than those guys trying to make something more out of what they had in order to show off somehow. I don't know if I'm explaining myself correctly. If you guys watch it, it's hard to get it's hard not to separate yourself from the story because it's so tragic, it's so involved, but it's hard to separate from yourself and start critiquing the way that this fucking thing was made. But hey, fuck it, I did it, man. I mean, it's just, it got to the point where, to me, it was annoying and taking away too much from something that they, it's almost, I don't want to say, it's almost, I don't want to say it like this, but it does seem like they were using this boy's tragedy to forward their filmmaking. I got that sense in a few episodes and in a few parts in the episode to where, hey man, I didn't even need to, I don't care about that shit. That shit didn't need to be in the story, and that shit didn't, you need to take away time, and it seems to me like a waste of production money and time. You could have done it some other way. And yeah, I do think that in some parts it got to the point where like, hey, what the fuck are you guys doing here? But at the end of the day, it brought to light the story of this little boy that needed to be brought out. I didn't know. I vaguely remember hearing something about this, but it was nice to get some sort of long-form documentary about this trial and about these kids and about the monsters that fucking fucked them up. Is it still worth it? Yeah, I guess. Why not? Watch it. If there's a podcast out there, I probably would have listened to that first, or listened to that instead of watching this thing happen. Although I think if I was listening to that, it'd probably be scarier than watching it, and just the way that my mind works, you know. So, yeah. So that's another show that I got caught up on whilst in my my seclusion in the West Wing, if you will. Here. So yeah, that's as far as my TV shows, getting caught up, trying to extrapolate something out of it. The real question is this, though. I think that we are, and as I speak to the choir here, I think when we are in isolation, it really, as far as being creative, I think it separates the grown-ups from the kids in this situation. How creative can you be while in isolation? Now, some of us do our best work in isolation. Some of us, this is the way we prefer it to be. And you know, by the way, my heart goes out to you who are hurt financially from this bullshit, you know? It's some of us get to work from home, some of us don't, and depend on other people for money, as far as like being a waiter or an exotic dancer, you know, those types of jobs where not a bartender, you know, that sort of thing. I mean, hopefully something is done to help as many people as possible. But again, I've been in seclusion for a while here, as far as I get to work from home. I get to I've been not going out, obviously, so I'm used to this. So all I've been doing is going out for fucking pizza and cheeseburgers, and once in a while going out and see some friends. Once in a while went out to the Phoenix Film Revival Lab there in Phoenix, Arizona. You should go check that out. Although I think that they have more or less closed for a bit. I am not sure. If you guys need to see if they're open, contact them. They're at PHX Film Revival is the Instagram. You can contact them through there. I believe that their lab hours have been cut, if not completely closed down. Well, actually, they, with the great state of Arizona's governor here, I believe it has to be one of those businesses that shuts down. There's a list. I vaguely read the form or whatever that it said, but it's basically just only businesses that can stay open are ones that are essential to life. You know, be it takeout, supermarkets, banks of certain kinds, and the post office, or if you deal with logistics and mail and shit like that, and yada yada yada. You know, that's where this state is right now. We are in lockdown, and you can't go out and about and travel or anything like that. At least I don't think you can, as I understand it. But I've been more or less plotting. This is all I've been doing for the past 6 months or so, 7 months since last August, to where I haven't been able to do anything. Right, again, I just started walking about 5-6 weeks ago, and about that time. And man, I'm ready to get my camera out of storage and ready to do some things. And my main thing is, obviously, you guys know I have my Red House magazine. The Red House magazine is the Instagram. It's my little, what I love to shoot. I love working with models, and I love using, taking portraits, using my big old film cameras. That's my jam. And of course, I need to interact with people to make these portraits happen. And it is goddamn now near impossible. Just as I was getting ready to walk, getting ready to do some things, getting ready to call some people and do some portraits and such, bam, it gets locked down. Originally, what I wanted to do was, send something out like, all right, hey guys, if you aren't scared of this thing and want to hook up and do some creative magic and collaborate, let's do it, this, that, and the other. And the weird thing is this, man. I went to the doctor's office one day, and I was perfectly fine. And this was on a Thursday, actually last Thursday. And then I go in on Friday, and I am running this crazy fever. Now, I don't feel bad at first. I don't feel anything. I'm just running hot. So I go back into the doctor's office, and they're like, hey, man, you got a fever. Would you mind wearing a mask? I'm like, no, not at all. They're like, do you feel okay? Are you coughing? Do you have trouble breathing? I'm like, no, I guess I'm just running hot. They're like, okay, well, we'll check your vitals again as soon as we're done, doing their doctor stuff, right? So at the end of everything, which is about an hour later, they run my vitals again, and I started off with just over 100-degree fever, and by the time they took my temperature again, it was 102. So they're like, man, you need to do something about this. You probably need to go home and might need to go to the emergency room and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, all right, no problem. So I came home, did some research. I emailed my doctor, great thing about technology. You can email your doctor now, right? And I said, hey, listen, I am running a fever. I'm not having trouble breathing. I don't have a cough. For the most part, I don't feel like I have any flu symptoms other than I'm running really hot. And I sent it. And all I did was basically sleep it off Friday and sleep it off all day Saturday. And then by the time Sunday came around, my fever broke. I just felt really groggy, like I was getting over a hangover. But besides that, I didn't have any other sort of symptoms. And I was looking into whether or not I should go into the emergency room. Well, lo and behold, they're not testing people unless you got all of the symptoms. You got to be got to have it all. You got to be coughing. You got to have the fever. You got to have trouble breathing. You got to, I forget what the other one was. But for me, I was just, it was just this crazy fever. My doctor, she wrote back. She says, hey, just monitor yourself and let me know. But yeah, it doesn't seem like you need to go to the ER. And again, by the time Sunday rolled around, the fever broke. Monday and Tuesday, I was feeling great. I wasn't, that was it. But I still ended up, this was 2 weeks ago. So I still ended up more or less not podcasting with anyone. And I decided to pretty much put the kibosh on trying to reach out and let's just say work with someone. And I wasn't up. I couldn't bring my cameras out, which isn't to say that I should be shooting still lives or things like that. But, I just don't feel like documenting this, in my opinion. And I haven't been able to bring myself to document, like Helmut Newton. He went into the hospital once upon a time. He had a heart attack, or he had some sort of heart condition. And he decided that he was going to take pictures of his stay in the hospital and basically document the time that he was there. And it's something that kind of always like impressed me about him, because Helmut Newton isn't really known for anything much than shooting nude models, and doing fashion photography and very erotic side of fashion sort of thing, more or less. Those seem to be what he's known for. He does have other work as well, but that wasn't his bread and butter. That wasn't his money. So it was very impressive to me to see that he felt the need to document himself during this time, take portraits of himself in the mirror in his robe, sometimes without his shirt, to show, whatever. And the entire time I was in the hospital, I didn't feel that need. I didn't feel the need to document myself in that way. And it wasn't because of anything other than I didn't see any substance to it. I didn't see anything of value there I didn't feel passionate about that. I didn't feel passionate about documenting or photographing my plight, if you will. I mean, I just didn't think it was that serious. I did go through some things that I don't really tell anyone about, and the things that happened in the hospital, but to me, it wasn't worth anything. It wasn't documentable to me in a sense. It wasn't artistic. I didn't find any passion to it to where I needed to tell that story to anyone. It just wasn't there. And as I go along and still am living this hermit of a lifestyle this past, few months, I still don't see the need to document that. If I use my photograph or if I use my camera for anything, it'll be to focus on some still lives, maybe some portraiture, or just some weird things that just probably have nothing to do with anything other than what I was working on before all this happened. Funny enough, though, the thing that I am working on as far as staying creative, though, and it's something that I'm kind of fascinated with, is video at this moment, and particularly a dash cam. I have a little camera that is amazing. It's the Zoom Q2N, the first version of it, not the 4K, just the regular 1080p one, which it's amazing. I love it. I think it's a great camera. It has this great fisheye lens that is just like 150 degrees of coverage, and it is a tiny camera it's made by Zoom, and the people that at Zoom, what they do is they're experts in recording audio. Not super duper high fancy recording audio, but recording audio for musicians. Now, I say that not super duper fancy stuff. I mean, to me, it's great quality. When I record podcasts, this is what I use. Whether it's the R12, recorder or the H6 or the H4n. I love using all of those, and to me, they are good enough quality for podcasting, and definitely for sure good enough quality for a demo. Would I record an album on them? You'd have to have some balls on that. Depends on the kind of album, of course. Like Juan Minuto would definitely be able to record an album on something like that, but I'm not sure the Pink Floyd or some of the other crazy ones would be able to record on this thing. Given, the Beatles recorded on fucking makeshift reel-to-reel shit right back into the day. These recorders have less noise than that, but if you want to talk about richness on tape versus an analog versus digital, we'll have that discussion later on. Anyway, the camera itself, again, is really made made by Zoom, and it's really made to pick up great audio. Like if a musician wants to do a demo, sort of like maybe record him or herself playing guitar in front of it with video, it's a great audio for that. If you want to record your band at a show, you can do that as well. And it's just, like I said, it's got great audio for it. That's one of the reasons I got it. The other reason, of course, is because it's got a nice fisheye lens. I'm even thinking about maybe on down the line, after I'm finished paying some of this equipment, getting the 4K version just to have some sort of super sharp quality. I don't know, but the picture quality of this one is good enough. So lately, what I'm doing is I'm obsessed with putting this little camera on my dashboard and driving around town at all different times of the day and recording the traffic, recording the thing, and then coming back and then just basically doing a time lapse where I don't play it back at real time. I just, kind of like fast forward and using that as far as a video to when I upload something, the podcast, when I upload them onto YouTube. Just because some of these podcasts, like, I don't want to have a podcast where it's just me and my face, right? If I'm doing a solo podcast, that gets boring real quick. But I do want to put something other than just a static picture on for the podcast in case, I don't know, somebody wants to listen to it or whatever. So I've been obsessed with making these videos, and it's very interesting because even if I take the same route to, let's just say, the post office or wherever, or the, in this case, the burrito store, even though I take the same route, it's different every single time. And that kind of fascinates me for some reason. It's really like, I don't know, there's this series of paintings by Monet. And, okay, so I'm not going to compare myself to Monet, but it's just an example of what it is I'm talking about and why I think it's okay to do the exact same thing in different formats. So Monet used to have a studio across the street from this church. And there's a point in time where he's fascinated with painting this church over and over and over again. I think there's something like 13 or 15, maybe even as many as 20 paintings of the same church. But what he does is he paints the church during different times of the day because the light hits it differently, of course. So he becomes fascinated and obsessed with painting this thing as fast as he can during a particular time of day, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, depending on how the light hits it. And out of that, there's this amazing series of this church that I fucking just dig. I just love how obsessed the cat was with something that seems trivial. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh man, I fucking get it, bro. I fucking get his vibe. First of all, I love the cat's paintings. I love his style. I've always have. But the fact that he just decided, dude, this is something I'm going to go for. And I got to paint this church at noon. I got to paint it at 3. I got to paint it at 4. I got to paint it at 6, I think that's fascinating to me. So in that sense, I've done a few things in my photography where I continuously shoot the same thing, Some of you may know that banana thing that I did 10 shots and called it 10 American Nights. And by the way, the next series is going to be 20 American Nights as soon as I get my shit together. The Dying Still Life that I have a series of the still life I set up and basically let it rot and shoot it every single day until, you know, the birds ate it or whatever. I love doing shit like that. And so with this dash cam thing, I just love seeing it over and over and over again, even though it's like the same route to the UPS store or whatever, going down the same freeway, because each time it's a little different. Different cars, different time of day, different speeds. It just seems fucking crazy to me and fascinated. So that's lately how I've been filling my time. It also helps me get more familiar with video editing software and putting my doing podcast videos and overall just getting crazy with it. There's a bunch of things that I want to do as far as maybe have 3 screens, 4 screens, I don't know, of the same thing, syncing them up. It's just a bunch of crazy shit that, well, you know, there's plenty of time to think about this shit now. But what I was mentioning before is you see a lot of these memes, a lot of these posts, a lot of these quotes out there that are like, you know what, you know, day 1, everyone's happy in the quarantine, and by day 3, everyone wants to kill themselves, sort of thing. I don't know, man. It worries me, because going out, was that really the point of this whole thing? You know, like, you couldn't find anything creative to do with the time that you have. Now you are growing anxious, need to go out, you're cooped up. Where some of us, we create in this situation. It's like, all right, so, you know, we have ideas. And of course, some of us, you know, create in different ways. I mean, the carpenter, well, you know, depending if he's got a shop or not, but if he's go out and outside, it's possible that is not available to him or her. If you love being some sort of creative in different ways, you know, I can't even think about by the way, the construction guys down the street here, they're still working. Actually, I don't know as of maybe tomorrow or not, but these cats, they're still working. They're not being quarantined at all. They're out there working. Anyway, I think most of us have most of us create by ourselves, painters, sculptors, some of you cats who are amazing painters, writers. But I think being an actor, you're going to need someone to work with somehow, right? And I can definitely see how that's going to be tough. But even so, you know, you should be able to practice somehow on your craft. I don't know. It's just, I'm open. If you guys got any ideas, man, email them to me, because at thecommonrule@gmail.com. I would love to know how some of you are getting through this time and still creating in where you normally would need either other people to create or need to be in a specific space to create that otherwise you wouldn't be able to do at home. Or in a separate studio. Obviously I always thought that, you know, porn stars were artists or a form of art as well. You know, the way they express themselves, that's going to be hard to do. Some of them, they opened up those OnlyFans pages. Hey, no shame in that, man. You gotta make that paper any way you can. But I do think that it is what I take away, or what I can give you as far as what's been my routine as far as creating this whole time as I've been in, living this hermit lifestyle, is that I've been plotting. That's writing down ideas. and just waiting for something to happen that I'm going to be able to execute these ideas. And of course, that gets old as well, to where, you know, there's only so much plotting you can do and so many series that you can think of, so many photographs I want to make before I just need to start doing this. My gear is in storage at the moment, and I don't really have a way of pulling anything out as far as the big cameras. Of course, I have my cameras that I always carry around that allow me to do some things. But right now, what is keeping me busy is something that I normally wouldn't have done. Again, this little dash cam thing is very interesting to me, and overall just working on videos. Which brings me to my other point too. I never felt the need to make videos about myself either, even as far as documenting anything. And you know what? I've gotten a couple of people that are like, hey, you know, you should mention this in your podcast about, you know, what you went through with your leg and your foot, and maybe it helped somebody. And you know what? Fuck that. That's not my thing. It's not that I don't care about helping other people in any way. That's not my point. It's like, if someone asks me, I'll be more than happy to tell them. But it's just that I don't find that interesting at all. I don't think that is something that I should go in the depths into. Obviously, I talk about it here and in a couple other podcasts, but I think it's more of a less of where I'm at and what it is that it's like a jumping off point. I haven't gone into the details of what I've gone in through this whole time. I just, I don't know. It's just not that big a deal to me, especially in these times where again, I've mentioned this before, where just when you fucking get to wanting to feel sorry for yourself in some sort of way, bam, something else hits. And then all of a sudden, the shit that you're going through doesn't mean anything. There are people fucking fighting this thing. Dude, some of you are in trouble, and hopefully you guys get through this okay. Somebody knows someone who's infected with this thing, maybe already lost someone because of the complications of this thing. I'm sending good vibes your way. But those sort of things aren't for me to document. Again, that's the whole thing. But what I am trying to do is at least use this platform to be creative, to somehow be able to say, hey, you know what? This is what I went through. This is what's been helping me. And, I guess if there's a takeaway from this is that maybe we can be creative in other forms too, as far as photography hasn't been doing it for me because I can't set up the way that I wanted to. It's logistically very difficult for me to bring out my tripod, my camera, my lighting to set something up and have it in a spot to where I can start working on something in the long run. I just haven't had the means. I've been more or less on a temporary basis for almost 2 months now. And it's just something that probably a little longer than that. I haven't been able to set something up for a few months to where it's like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. This is the project, this, that, and the other. But you know what? It's going to happen here within the next 2 weeks or so. And so I'm ready to go on that and ready to start doing some things and ready to execute all these little ideas that I've had before. That I've come up with in this last month. And, that'll, take up some of my time, some of my creative juices, and hopefully bring about some decent work, And again, I really would love to hear what you guys do, what you guys come up with, and how you guys are getting through this thing. And I don't know, if you need some help with something, well, I'll put it out there. If I can't help you, someone else can, this, that, and the other. It's something where we're communicating about how we're getting through this creative thing, this creative, I wouldn't say a rut, but, obstacle, to say the least. The other thing that I just realized about this podcast, and it actually just hit me as right before I press record here, is how local this fucking thing is going to be. And how super local this is going to be. There's another podcast I remote that I'm really gung-ho as far as recording remotely, because it's just a few of us. We've already had a few podcasts, and we all don't need to be in the same room. So I figured out how to record a podcast remotely that sounds decent quality, and we were able to get through it. At the moment, again, I decided to stay indoors. I might stay indoors for another week as far as before I go out and about and record another podcast, just to be safe. And I don't want to push it. But the thing that I realize about this podcast is that with this one, I have to have face-to-face conversations with whoever it is I'm talking to. It's really the only way I think I can connect with somebody on a creative level, to where we sit there, we are feeding off of each other's energy, and we can talk about being creative in a more in-depth situation. That's not to say that I'm trying to grab somebody and strap them in and not let them go until I'm done with it. It's just that I don't think we could get that vibe remotely through Skype or through, whatever, over the phone or anything like that. I listen to a lot of podcasts that do that. Mike Watt has got a great podcast where he talks a lot to other artists and musicians as well. But the fact that he does most of them remotely kind of kills me. And don't get me wrong, the audio quality on that really fucking kills me. I just heard a podcast here that was also done remotely with Eddie Vedder and Jeff Ament of Pearl Jam. They just released a new album. You should check it out, Gigaton, and it's pretty fucking good if I don't say so myself. But they did a remote podcast with this, otherwise it's a basketball podcast by this cat named Bill Simmons. And I appreciated the podcast. It was, dude, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes long, 226, I think, with the whole thing. And I was really appreciative of how open both Jeff and Eddie Vedder were during the podcast. I don't think, I wish that Bill Simmons was a bigger Pearl Jam fan that he led on to be. He didn't ask as many questions as definitely I have, and that some of us really want to ask from way back in the day that are still lingering. He asked a couple of things, but Eddie Vedder is definitely very cool to talk to and very open in this day and age. Jeff Ament is the same way. I'm very more partial to Stone Gossard and Mike McCready, the guitar players in the band. I have a ton of questions that I would really love to hear from them, but I was really surprised at how open these cats were when in the 90s, they wanted nothing to do with anything. They were, although they did give interviews with the people that they deemed worthy at that time, they at one point were just not doing any sort of media or anything like that would that a lot of other rock stars do from time. They definitely weren't on the fucking Today Show. They weren't coming on Charlie Rose talking about that shit, They were just, they secluded themselves as well. Anyway, my point was that I think had the podcast not been remote and they were all together in the same room, that the podcast might have gone a little different and been able to get a little bit more personal with something that and maybe, let's just say, get better information out of it than just your normal kind of, although they did talk about some really cool stuff. They talked a lot of generic stuff about them and that questions they've answered over and over again before. And I think it was just because of all the podcasts that they could have been on, of course, they went on a basketball podcast. And if you guys know anything about Pearl Jam, basketball is their fucking thing, and it always has been their thing since the very beginning. It's the whole. Well, I won't bore you with that. But anyway, my point was that as long as someone's in Phoenix and as long as someone's in my face, that's where the interviews are going to come from. And I will continue to seek out other artists that can make time to come to my house, my quote-unquote studio, to talk to and be able to communicate in that way and not remotely as much. Which is to say, I guess if Eddie Vedder decided to fucking do a podcast with me remotely, it's going to be very difficult to say no, right? Or, you know, whoever your favorite artist is, it's going to be very difficult to say. I mean, I was talking the other day, again, another tangent, who cares, fuck it. What if Bansky decided that he fucking wanted to come on the Common Rule? First of all, I really don't know what Bansky sounds like. So if somebody named Bansky were to call me up and goes, hey, I want to do your podcast, I think I would be the kind of podcast that Bansky would do. Some low-level bullshit podcast that hardly anyone listens to, and all of a sudden I go, hey, Bansky's going to come on the show, and then fucking propel this fucking thing like a joke, like that documentary. Have you guys seen that? If you're listening to this, you better fucking seen that documentary. The gift shop, exit through the gift shop sort of thing, where to really oversimplify a documentary, the thing where he uses a documentary to, well, okay, so here's my opinion. I think that he uses his documentary to expose how much of a joke the art world is by making a virtual no one a big-time artist in the market, selling crap for high-end market value, all because somehow an artist like Bansky is attached to it. That's one of the things that I got away from that. But anyway, if Bansky decided that he wanted to do this podcast, I guess it'd have to be remote, right? Because I don't know what he looks like. I don't know if anyone out there knows what he looks like. Rumor around the campfire is that there are a handful of people who knows what he looks like, who are in that same genre. But again, if Bansky came up and slapped me in the face, I wouldn't know who the fuck he was, and I'd fucking probably deck him and break his arms. I'm kidding, I wouldn't do that. Joke. But yeah, I don't know what Bansky sounds like. I don't know what he does. I don't know how you would prove to me that he was Bansky. But if Bansky decided to do a remote podcast with me, I guess I guess I'd say yeah, you know, because what other way would Bansky do it? He definitely wouldn't come here. I don't think he'd ever show me his face. If he came here, he'd still wear a mask, or she would wear a mask, you know, because I don't know. It could be a girl. Everyone thinks this cat's a cat, but you know what? It could be a kitten. You don't know. You know, it could be a kitten. Slightly misogynist, but whatever. Deal with it. But yeah, it could be a woman. You don't know at this point. So I guess if someone like that decided to come on board, yeah, I would. I guess I would do that. But again, whatever. You know what I'm saying. Anyway, my whole point is, would there be exceptions to the rule about talking to somebody remotely? Yeah, I guess, of course. But for the most part, this is going to be a very super local sort of thing. And I'm going to keep it that way. If it's a podcast, I guess it'll be our podcast. And if there's some of you out there that are outside of Phoenix listening, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. At least you'll get a little flair for what the art life is in Phoenix. Or somebody's visiting Phoenix and I can grab them. Bam, that's going to be it. All right, man. I've rambled on long enough right now. I really appreciate this. I really appreciate you guys listening. I really, again, wash your fucking hands. Stay clean. Stay healthy. I'm sending out good vibes to you and your loved ones out there. Again, I'm sorry this one was a rambler, but I don't care. I'll probably be a couple more like these I'll probably record a couple more like these just to be random and just to help you guys. This is for you guys. This ain't for me. Help both of us get through these weird and strange times. And you know what? Also, send me an email if you guys are listening to what kind of music you guys are listening to right now. I have I think more or less, I have an idea brewing as about music in these days and times, especially with this new Pearl Jam album that came out. I have an idea of something quasi. I have a fuzzy idea on what it is I want to do. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I really appreciate that. Again, stay healthy, stay clean, wash your hands, and I hope you tune in next time. Please don't get fucking dirty and don't contract this thing if at all possible. Stay indoors. I don't give a fuck if you're a conspiracy theorist and say that this is all a hoax. I don't give a fuck. Stay indoors. Do what they tell you to do for now, and make sure that that you stay healthy. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you next time. Enjoy your youth.